Imagine, just for a second, you've been sailing across the brutal, unforgiving Atlantic Ocean for months. You finally hit land, a remote island off the coast of what we now call North Carolina. Your heart is just full, right? You're expecting to reunite with your family, you're expecting to hear kids laughing, to see smoke rolling out of the village chimneys. But instead, when you step off that boat, you're hit with this absolutely devastating, overwhelming silence. The houses are empty, every single person is just gone. Today in this explainer, we're diving into one of the most heartbreaking, enduring mysteries in American history, the tragic story of the Lost Colony of Roanoke. I really want to put you directly in the shoes of Governor John White for a minute. Just think about the sheer psychological weight of that exact moment. You show up expecting the lively buzz of a brand new community, literally the people you love most in the entire world, and reality just hands you this silent, abandoned ghost town. There were no bodies anywhere, no signs of some desperate, bloody battle, not even a frantic message begging for rescue. There was literally just a void, right where a thriving community was supposed to be. So here is the absolute most crucial thing to remember. This isn't just some neat little historical puzzle. It is an immense human tragedy. We're talking about exactly 115 souls, men, women, children. That number right there represents entire families who literally vanished into thin air, leaving zero definitive trace behind. More than 400 years later, and we still don't know exactly what happened to them. But to even begin to grasp the gravity of this loss, we have to look at who these people were and, well, why they were there in the first place. Section 1. Hope in a New World. A community of families. Okay, let's rewind a bit. In the spring of 1587, Queen Elizabeth I and Sir Walter Raleigh backed a totally unique kind of expedition. See, unlike previous military groups, this specific colony was built entirely on hope. It was made up of everyday farmers, mothers, kids, people just looking for a permanent home. They were dreaming of owning land and giving their families a better future. And shortly after they got there, history actually took this incredible turn. On August 18th, 1587, Governor John White's very own daughter gave birth to Virginia Dare. She was the first English child born in North America. Little Virginia was this massive beacon of hope for their new community. She really anchored the whole emotional weight of their journey. Section 2. A desperate call for help. The difficult choice. But as you can imagine, the reality of the New World was absolutely brutal. They were dealing with unfamiliar soil, super tense relations with local tribes, and a looming winter with their food running dangerously low. These colonists were forced into a truly heartbreaking decision. They knew that without fresh supplies, tools, and medicine from England, their chances of making it were fading fast. So they all got together and decided Governor John White had to be the one to go back. Before he got on that ship, leaving behind his own daughter and brand new granddaughter, they made this really desperate agreement. If the colonists had to leave Roanoke before he got back, they promised to carve the name of where they were going into a tree or a post. And crucially, if they were in immediate, life-threatening danger, they were supposed to carve a Maltese cross right next to that message. Now, White fully expected to be back in just a matter of months. But the second he landed in England, the whole country got dragged into a massive war with Spain. You've probably heard of it, the Spanish Armada. Queen Elizabeth literally ordered every available ship to stay back for defense. Civilian voyages were strictly banned. White was completely, utterly trapped. Can you even imagine the torture of those years? Just watching the seasons change, wondering every single day if your infant granddaughter and your daughter were starving or freezing or worse. It wasn't until August 1593, 3 agonizing years later, that he finally managed to get back. Section 3. 3 years too late, the heartbreaking return. So, White finally steps back onto Roanoke Island on August 18th, 1590. Man, that was his granddaughter Virginia's 3rd birthday. But there was no joyful reunion waiting for him. The whole pacing of his frantic rescue mission just dropped into this haunting, dead quiet. What he actually found offers this really eerie lack of closure. The buildings hadn't been burned down, there were no scattered weapons, no signs of cannon fire, and thankfully no human remains. But all the heavy cooking equipment and furniture, completely gone. That meant the colonists actually took the time to pack up their lives. The total lack of battle evidence strongly pointed to a deliberate, organized departure, rather than some sudden, chaotic massacre. As White is desperately searching this utterly silent village, he remembers their agreement. And then, he sees it. Carefully carved right into a prominent wooden fence post was a single word: Croatoan. You guys, the monumental weight of this single word just cannot be overstated. It was literally the only voice left by the missing colonists, kind of reaching out across time to tell him where they went. Croatoan referred to a nearby island. It was the home of the Croatoan people, a Native American community that had actually kept up pretty friendly relations with the English.
And this single word offered him this tragic sliver of hope. He had a destination. But crucially, what he didn't find was the Maltese cross. There was no sign of immediate, violent danger anywhere. To a father and a grandfather who had been terrified of the absolute worst for 3 years, that missing cross meant everything. It told him they hadn't run away in sheer panic or under attack. They had to be located by choice, most likely looking for food and shelter with friendly neighbors.
Filled with this really desperate burst of hope, White immediately wanted to set sail for Croatoan Island. I mean, it was just a short distance away. But in this incredibly cruel, devastating twist of fate, nature intervened. A massive, violent storm slammed into the coast, just violently battering their ships. The ship's captains were terrified for their own lives, and they flat out refused to risk another landing. Against John White's desperate pleading wishes, the expedition turned its sails and headed right back to England. He never returned to Roanoke. He never got to search Croatoan, and he never saw his family ever again.
Section 4. Fading into history, the theories of survival.
Today, historians and archaeologists are still trying to piece together the colonists' ultimate fate. But we really have to view these theories not just as fun little historical puzzles, but as the harrowing realities of families pushed to the absolute brink. There are 3 main theories here, and honestly, all of them speak to an agonizing bid to just stay alive. The first, and definitely the most widely supported, is that they willingly joined the Croatoan tribe. I mean, facing a brutal winter with 0 food, seeking help from the locals was really their only logical chance. The second theory is that they simply starved, broke apart into smaller, desperate groups, and scattered inland to forage. And the third is that they were eventually attacked and killed by rival groups, maybe after they'd already left the island. Whichever path they took, it was an absolute fight for their lives.
Now, modern archaeology has given us these fragmented, really tantalizing clues, but still no definitive proof. Excavations down on Hatteras Island, which is the historical home of the Croatoan, have actually turned up 16th century English artifacts like pottery and tools. Plus, researchers using advanced imaging recently found a hidden fort symbol on John White's map. That suggests they might have planned a secret inland settlement. And critically, no mass graves have ever been discovered. All these clues point heavily toward their moving inland or assimilating, but they just don't prove the fate of all 115 souls. When you really piece all of this together, we're left with a profoundly human reflection. You know, history rarely ever disappears in some single massive cinematic moment of destruction. The most likely and perhaps the most heartbreaking explanation is that these families just fractured. Starving, completely abandoned by their home country, they integrated into Native American communities. They adapted to survive. And over generations, their English identities simply, quietly faded away into the fabric of history.
They weren't some mythical lost civilization. They were just parents trying to feed their kids. It was a grandfather desperately looking for his family. So as we look at the evidence they left behind, the artifacts, the empty houses, that single word carved into a post, we have to ask ourselves, did the Lost Colony of Roanoke actually find a new home and a new family among the Croatoan, or did they simply fade away into the American wilderness, never to be heard from again? Think about that for a while and keep exploring the past.